everybody, so I hope you're well and having the most incredible day as always. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well and welcome to my September reading wrap up. Last month in September we managed to read 10 books, which I feel for me is just great because normally I do average out about 8 books a month, so we are above average this month. I feel really great about it, and to be honest, we have such a wide variety of books as well, because at the start of the month I was in my like summery romancy kind of era, and towards the end I was definitely leaning more towards my fantasy, cozy, autumnal, like mystery thriller kind of vibe. So we've got such a wide mix of books here and I'm so excited to share them with you. So without further ado, as always, we are going to dive right in. I hope you guys enjoy this video and carry on watching. So this is going to be in no particular order, by the way. I'm literally going to pick a book up and talk to you about it. So the first book we are going to go through is A Kingdom of Fire and Fate by Holly Renee. This is the 4th book in the Stars and Shadows series and I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one a 4-star. It wasn't necessarily my favourite in the series, however it was within a, how can I describe it? The point of views in this book were different from the first 3, but this was 2 people that I just needed to know their inner thoughts, essentially. Like I had to know what was going on with this couple, and I am so glad we found out, because there was so much in this book that I needed to hear, I needed to see, and I absolutely loved it. So essentially this series is about vampires, fae, war. It's got beautiful world building. It's not complex. Each book is under 300 pages. There's 4 in this series. To be honest, this series for me works out to be like a really lovely palette cleanser. Like if I'm sat reading an intense kind of fantasy book, for example, or I'm in the middle of a series and I want something just to like jazz it up, like this series was perfect. It's, as I said, got vampires, it's got fae, it's spicy, so if that's the kind of vibe you like, you might love it. Again, this one was a 4-star read. I did absolutely love this series, and yeah, this is basically my first book that I read. I can't tell you too much because I don't want to spoil it, but I have given my thoughts and opinions on each of the other books in this series and I did really enjoy it. So I think I'm gonna have to delve into more of Holly Renee's books. I know she's just released a couple new ones, so I might have to get those, but yeah, I absolutely love this one, which was the first one I read. The next book I picked up was featured in my most recent video, which was where I basically finished up a bunch of series I'm in the middle of, and that is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. Now I'm not gonna lie, I can't really tell you much about this book. This book was genuinely a, I don't want to say a filler book because that sounds like it was bad. It wasn't bad at all. I gave this one a 4 stars as well and I really enjoyed it. But what I will say is, comparing this one to the first one and the novella, like I feel like this one just, it wasn't as gripping as the other 2, if that makes sense. Like the first one was so incredibly good and this one again was good. It just wasn't, it wasn't a 5-star read, do you know what I mean? Like it was a 4-star read. I really enjoyed it, but as I said, it was a lot of filler and I cannot tell you a single thing that goes on in this book because it will spoil the first one. What I will say is, if you love fantasy, if you love the kind of fantasy where it's to do with, like, I don't want to say games, that's not the right word. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like you are competing to win something. I feel like that's all I can tell you. We did have a bit of romance, which if you guys have read the first book, we waited for that and it was brilliant. And at the end there was a big cliffhanger, so I'm really excited to read the next book. Again, this was a 4-star book. I did love it, but I cannot tell you anything, so just go and read the first one. Trust me, so good. The next book I picked up was also featured in my most recent video. To be honest, the next 2 books after this book were also featured in that video, so I'm not going to say it again, but the next book I picked up was Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is part of the kind of Icebreaker series. I'm not actually sure what this series is even called, but basically it's Icebreaker, Wildfire, Daydream. You get what I mean. This book was really good. This one was a 4-star read. It was very cute. It was very much what I needed at the time. Like I needed a cute, spicy, fluffy romance kind of book, and like this was perfect and I really enjoyed it. So in this book you have Aurora and you have Russ. They previously meet, and I'm not going to tell you too much about their previous situation because I don't want to spoil it. They previously meet and then they meet again at camp, and they are both camp counselors. There's a lot of tension, there's spice. It's a lovely kind of group of friends. Like I really enjoy their group of friends and how they kind of come together. I think it's really nice, and I also also love that each of these books in this series are interconnected and you do see other characters from the other books, and I really love that in a series. And I don't know what else I can tell you. The only thing I'm going to say is I didn't picture them looking like the front cover at all. Like maybe Aurora a little bit, but Russ, I did not imagine him to look like that. I don't know why, but I did really enjoy this one. Again, it was a 4-star read. It's just a very cozy, spicy, fluffy kind of romance. I really enjoyed it. I also loved that both of these characters had stuff going on with their families and they kind of related in that aspect. They just worked really well as a couple and I absolutely loved them. And Russ was really sweet too. So yeah, I love this book. 4-star read. It's a great series. The next book I picked up was Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. I loved this book. This one was a 5-star read. Essentially it was a 5-star read because of Weston. Weston alone gets the 5 stars. It was so cute. I absolutely loved this book so much. And this one is about Weston and Ada. Ada is an interior designer and Weston hires her to come and sort out the inside of the ranch, and it's just a beautiful, like, cozy, spicy, really short cowboy romance, and I absolutely loved it. Like, I haven't read the Chestnut Springs series, which I know is awful. They're still on my bookshelf. I don't even know where they are. Are they behind me? Oh, they're there. Can you see them? No. Anyway, they are behind me. I haven't read them yet, and this is really making me want to read that series because I know that everyone that loves that series loves this series and vice versa. I just loved the characters in this. I love the found family in this. Like, when I'm reading this, like, I want to move into this book. Like, it's one of those books you're reading and you wish you could just dive right in. Do you know what I mean? I can't tell you anything else about this story without giving it away. All you need to know is it's spicy, it's found family, it's also just, I can't even describe it. Like, you're reading this book and you're just like, I love everybody in this book. Like, every single person in this book, I love them. So this one was a 5-star read. If you couldn't tell from me gushing over it, I loved this book. It was amazing. So yeah, if you haven't read it, please read it. There is another, I think, 2 more books in this series coming out at least. So I'm so excited about those 2 because I know who one of them is going to be about and I cannot wait. Like, if you've read these books and you know who Teddy is, I just can't wait for that one. I'm so excited. Anyway, 5-star read. Love this one. And the last book that was featured in my previous video was The Housemaid is Watching by Frida McFadden. You guys know that I love Frida McFadden with my whole entire soul. I love her books. They are just the most gripping, thrilling, plot twisty books I have ever read. If you're looking for a thriller, a mystery, something where you're reading it and then at the end you're just like, what have I just read? Frida McFadden is the one. This one I gave a 4-star. It wasn't my favourite. I think it was simply because, to be honest, I kind of had an inkling, like when I was reading this book, because I've read so many of her books now, I do kind of know a few tips and tricks to like try and steer me to what's going on. Does that make sense? Anyway, I was reading it and then I was thinking, like, it's definitely to do with that character. Like, that character is a red flag. Was I correct? Yes, I was. It wasn't what I thought, and I still can't even describe to you what goes on in this book, but if you've read the first 2, I highly recommend this one. I know a lot of people didn't like this one so much. I really enjoyed it. Again, it was a 4-star read, and it does follow Millie and her family kind of a few years later from the second and first book, and I can't say anything else. You've just got some weird ass neighbours. That's all I'm going to say. The neighbourhood is close, and it's just bizarre, but yeah. Great book, 4 stars. If you love a bit of Frida McFadden, highly recommend. The next book was mine and my friend Kelsey's book club pick of the month. If you guys didn't know, me and my friend Kelsey, we have a book club and it's called the Across the Pond Book Club. We're over on Instagram. This was our September book, and to be honest, I had been really wanting to read this book for a while, and I was shocked at how much I enjoyed this one. So this is Bewitched by Laura. Is it Thalassa? This one. Firstly, the cover. Like, look at how beautiful that cover is. Also, it gives autumnal. It's giving witches. It was just perfect for September. I absolutely loved it. Essentially, in this book, you've got somebody called Celine who is a witch, and she is really trying her best to enter this coven and kind of belong to that family, I suppose, and to get entered into the coven and to be able to kind of stay there and learn things. And what's the word? It's not like a coven. It's kind of like a sorority, I suppose, but for witches, if that makes sense. And anyway, to do that, she has to do these few things, and she kind of goes on this quest. I'm not going gonna lie, when I started reading it, I was like, this is so bizarre. Like, she goes on this airplane, the airplane starts getting like pulled to the ground, and she manages to survive, and it's all just a bit strange. Like, up until that point I was a bit like, what am I reading? Like, it's so bizarre. And then she meets somebody, and it's so hard because even now, to this moment, I don't know whether I love or hate the main male character. I really cannot tell you how I feel about him, because he does some stuff in this book that I'm a bit like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, why have you done that? Like, I would not like a person to do that in real life. However, he also says and does stuff that makes me love him, and I cannot decide. Like, if you read this book, please let me know. Did you love or hate him? Because I cannot decide, and even to this day, I still don't know. I gave this one a 4 stars, by the way. I'm not sure if I already said that, but this one was a 4-star read, and I am going to read the next one. The flop on this one is just immaculate, like, just so comfortable. Did I read it on my Kindle? Yes, I did, but I really enjoyed the paperback too. And yeah, I don't really want to tell you too much about this book because there's so many things in this book that happens that you don't expect. A lot of twists and turns, a lot of... I don't know, I really liked her writing style though, and I have a few more books added to my wish list of this author because I really envisioned it all very well and very clearly, and it was just really fun. So yeah, that was the next book I read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that was a 4-star. The next book I feel like is really going to rustle some feathers, and I don't know if I want to talk about it, but I'm gonna talk about it, and that is A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. Everybody, I swear, loved this book. Did I love this book? No. I give this one a 3 stars, and a 3 stars I feel is quite generous. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I have read The Dead Romantics and I wasn't obsessed with it. I haven't read The 7-Year Slip. Do I need to read it? Let me know. It's not the fact that I didn't like her writing style or the way that she built the world up or anything. The actual idea of this book was so incredibly cute. Essentially, you have got a girl called Eileen, and she basically loves to read. She has this series that she's obsessed with. She ends up driving and ends up in the world of the series. It's all bizarre, but anyway, it's kind of like magical realism. Is that the right term? Anyway, she basically goes to this town and you're like, what the heck is going on? Like, how has she firstly got into this town? But also there's this guy, and his name was, what was his name? Was it Anderson? Was that his name? I feel like that was his name. Anyway, he isn't in the books, but he lives in this town, and the whole time she's there, she's like, why can I not picture who you are? Like, why do I not know who you are? The fact that when you find out who he is, I loved that. Like, I loved the connection. I loved why he was there, and I really enjoyed it. I'm going to say a spoiler of this book now, so if you guys don't want a spoiler, please just fast forward 20 seconds and I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But the spoiler is coming now. What I didn't like about this book is the fact that throughout the entire book you're reading about her and this guy, this kind of slow burn romance going on. He then meets somebody at the end, gives her a handshake, has this eye contact, and then says to the main girl, oh, by the way, I'm not going to come back home with you now because I'm just gonna go and get to know someone else. And then a few months later down the line, or however long it is, goes back to the main girl, and that's the end. Like, red flag, you know? Like, bizarre. Anyway, spoiler alert is over. Carrying on. I just had a few things about this book that I didn't love. It wasn't that I hated it, and it wasn't that I didn't like the story. I didn't like the way it was written. I just had a few things about this book that really annoyed me, and I also felt like I wasn't binging this book. Like, I didn't feel the need to sit there and like was immersed in the story. If I'm honest, some things just annoyed me and it wasn't my fave. So I gave it a 3-star. I'm really happy with that score, and again, you might love this book. It just wasn't my fave. The next book I picked up, to be honest, I'm really shocked I haven't picked it up sooner, because firstly, I love the author. Secondly, this author wrote one of my favourite series of all time, and I just feel like she can do no wrong, and that is 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. Now, I don't know what it kind of like put me off about this book, whether it says 5 survive, but there's 6 friends and there's 1 sniper. You kind of know what's going on, like, you know that someone's not going to make it, so it's kind of spoilt the ending already. I didn't love it. I gave this one a 3-star as well. It wasn't that I didn't love it. I think I just didn't love the kind of stagnant... Basically, this story is based in one spot for the whole thing, so I kind of got a bit bored. Like, there was no movement, there was no progress, it just kind of stayed the same. To be honest with you, I think this would make a really good like film. It was very interesting, it was very like tense, and there was a lot of tension, there was a few plot twists, but I wasn't shocked about the overall reveal of what was going on. I wasn't obsessed with the characters. A lot of them were annoying, and I can't tell you much more about it without spoiling it. I will hold it up if you guys want to read it. Feel free to have a read. Essentially, the kind of title spoils it for you really. 6 friends, 5 survive. You know what's gonna happen. But yeah, essentially it's about 6 friends. They're in an RV. The RV gets stuck for a certain reason and they have to survive something that's going on. And that's basically all I'm going to tell you. Wasn't my favourite, but don't let that fool you. The A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, an 8-star series. I love that. The next book I picked up, I feel like I had to pick this one up this month because I didn't want to read it in October because I really want to get into like my spooky, cozy kind of books. And this one I felt like was perfect for the end of September, and that was The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. I bought this book literally a year ago or so, and I have been putting it off and putting it off, and it kind of got too hot to read it, and I felt like, do you know what, it's September, let's pick this one up. So this one was about a girl called Jeannie, and essentially she gets to go and run and own a cafe. It's called the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, if you wouldn't have guessed, in a small town. Essentially, if you love Gilmore Girls, if you love that small town cozy kind of easy fluffy romance book, you will really like this one. I cannot honestly tell you much more about what went on apart from the fact there was a grumpy like male main character involved. She was very kind of sunshine-esque and it was a really cute book, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm gonna have the itch to ever read it again. It was just a really cute read. I gave it a 3-star. I think a 3-star is a fair point. I feel like it's perfect for this time of year. I did enjoy the characters. I just don't feel like I'm gonna really need to read it again. Do you know what I mean? It was a cute book. I feel like I've told you nothing, but I'd be lying if I told you I remembered loads of the story. So that was the next book I read. And the last book I read in September was Filthy Rich Vampires, the second right by Giovanna Lee. This is obviously the second book in a series, so there's only so much I can tell you. However, I read Filthy Rich Vampires months ago, really enjoyed it, and then I found the rest of them in the works, and I absolutely love this series. This one was a 4-star read. It carries on from the first one, and you do get a lot of progression within this series that I cannot tell you about because it will completely spoil it, and I really don't want to do that. What I will say is that the end of the book, cliffhanger. Literally, if you have read this book, I honestly was sat there and I was just like, as if that's the last page. Like, I need to read the 3rd book immediately. I absolutely love this one. Again, I can't tell you much about it. All I can tell you is this kind of gives off like billionaire romance, but the billionaire is a vampire, and it's such a good series. It's so good. If you like Twilight, you'll love this one. So those are all of the books I read in September. Again, I feel like we had such a good mix of genre, of ratings. I feel like I really knocked a good few off my TBR this month. So I would love to know down below, what did you read this past month? What was your favourite book and what was your least favourite? Because I would love to know. As always, if you guys haven't yet subscribed, please make sure you do. I would love to have you here, and honestly, you guys just make my day. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed, please do. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.